So the first thing we've got up today is a panel of alumni. So here, this is an opportunity. We're going to do some introductions, and I'm going to sort of lightly moderate it. I'm going to try to stay out of it a little bit. But this is your opportunity to ask questions of people that have gone here, graduated, and gone out into the wider world to do great and wonderful things, okay? So while I'm yabbering away, start thinking about those questions, right? Write them down, think about them, because I think we've got a really great panel that's pretty diverse. We've got folks that have done a lot of different things, and so I think you're going to like it. First, we've got Jerry Beard, who's right here. Wave, Jerry. Say hi to the people. Jerry is a 1991 graduate of Tech Law. He's currently the Assistant Federal Public Defender for the Northern District of Texas, where he undertakes the defense of federal criminal indigents. You guys are probably familiar with the Miranda warning. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you. That's Jerry. Mr. Beard's specialty is appellate advocacy. He's presented more than 50 oral arguments before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit. He was also in the Air Force and Air Force Reserves for more than 20 years, which included flying combat and combat support missions in the months immediately following 9/11. And if I had to take a guess, if somebody asked him what the accomplishments in his life that he was most proud of, it'd be a toss-up. The first thing, in 2008, Jerry had the opportunity to argue before the United States Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., and he won 9-0. Or his client won 9-0, right? You advocated on your client. So that's pretty cool. The second thing is that I'm guessing is that his daughter Amber is out in the crowd today. He's probably going to tell you that several times because I think he's pretty proud of that. She's going to be coming to law school too, and he's going to be another Red Raider lawyer. So I don't know. I don't know how to. I'm not going to ask you to pick between those two, but no pressure, Amber. Supreme Court. I'm just kidding. Next up over there, next to Jerry, we've got Judge Sam Medina. Judge Medina graduated from the law school in 1976. He's been a longtime resident in West Texas, growing up in Crosbyton, and is a leader in the West Texas legal community. He's the youngest of 7 children. Grew up traveling with his family, doing migrant labor all over the country until they settled in Crosbyton. He was the first person in his family to graduate from high school and college, and he has earned a well-deserved reputation for being a champion of education and has had a number of influential roles with various state and local education initiatives. He practiced law for 20 years until he became a county court law judge here in Lubbock County. He was the first Hispanic to be elected to countywide office in Lubbock. He went on to be elected state district judge, where he held that position for 10 years. He is now the city attorney for the city of Lubbock. Next to him, we have Tracy Siebenlist. Did I get that right? Siebenlist? Siebenlist. Darn. I'll fix that in editing. In post, we'll fix that. Tracy graduated from Tech Law recently, 2009. She graduated magna cum laude and was on the Administrative Law Journal here. After law school, she clerked for a federal bankruptcy judge, Judge Robert Jones, and she practices here in Lubbock with a firm of Crenshaw, Dupree, and Milam, where she does business and commercial law. She was also recently initiated into Leadership Lubbock by the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce. The Horned Frogs in the audience may be interested to know that she played varsity golf for TCU in a former life back in the day. So that's pretty neat too. All sorts of different types of people here at the law school, different things. And last but not least, you met her earlier, Cynthia Hall Clements. She's also a member of the class of 2009, but more importantly to me anyway, she's our assistant director of admissions here. So she was, law was a second career for Cynthia. She earned her master's degree in political science from LSU and wrote a nationally syndicated column covering Texas politics and public policy. Then she came to law school. In her third year, she clerked for Federal District Court Judge Sam Cummings. And after that, she's practiced law in 2 sort of different settings. She did sort of the private law firm where she practiced oil and gas litigation. But more recently, she worked for a nonprofit where she represented people with disabilities in employment and healthcare law cases. So slightly 2 different areas of law. So let's welcome our panel. And so I guess I will kick it off a little bit, and I would say Judge Medina as the senior member of the panel, the most experienced.
That's a legal way of saying he's the old guy.
Yes, but I didn't say that. It's more polite. No, I guess tell me, what's the one thing, because you come back here and you visit quite a lot and you work with young attorneys. What do you think is the biggest change you've seen from when you went to law school to today?
Well, obviously, I mean, the growth, and I'll tell you, the steady improvement of what's going on in this law school. And having been out in the real world, people that will eventually hire you, and I'm not just talking about the firms, I'm talking about at the end of each file, there's a human being, somebody that depends on you. Those people want to know that you know what you're doing. And I think that this law school has progressed from, it's always done this, but even more so now, doing something that the dean said at noon, getting you practice ready. And I guess the way to describe that, the only way I can describe it is I was telling some students this earlier. I like to divide the practice law into two different levels. And if you have both of those, you have what I call an act. And they never taught us how to turn microphones on. Unless you took music or something, they don't offer that here. But let me say this to you. I think that the thing that I've learned the most, that I've seen progress, has been, if you divide law into the general practice into two areas, the science of it and the art of it. It's I was telling somebody earlier, it's like the mechanic that knows the science. He's read the manuals, but doesn't know where the hood is. Never worked on a car. Or the firefighter who knows all the rules but couldn't put out a fire. One is science, one is art. It's actually doing it. This law school has continuously progressed to the point where you get what I call the knack. If you have both of those, you're practice ready. You are valuable to people. And at the end of the day, that's what you're supposed to be. Valuable to human beings. You know, people that can't sleep at nights because they worry about their problem. People that every time they go eat something, it ruins their meal because they've got this problem. They want to come to you. And you take their problem and you're practice ready.
And Tracy, I'm sorry.
And so at the end of the day, that's what I've seen the most. And let me say one last thing. I have a theory. Those that are practice ready, when they go take the bar exam, they understand the questions better. And you pass the bar because you understand it. Check out our passing rate compared to others and see if I'm lying.
So Tracy, as one of the junior members of the panel, would you does that sort of match what you've experienced in the few years you've been out and practicing?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. You know, making the transition from school to practice is, I'm going to admit it, it's a little scary at first. And, you know, there are times you don't know what you're doing, but I feel like, you know, you have a better grasp than most people. I have a couple of my associates in my firm, you know, come from other schools and other places, and the practice preparation here, whether it be through Board of Barristers or clinics or whatever, definitely puts you at an advantage over other law schools that are strictly classroom-based. So that helps. I will disagree that there were some things on the bar that I definitely did not have a clue what they were talking about when they were asking, but the passage rate is very good, so you have that going for you.
So Jerry.
Stephen,
yeah.
If I could add this. I was a judge for 15 years. The only reason I left it is because they wanted me the city attorney. And I could tell, oftentimes, I'd get young lawyers in, and I would listen. And there was only 2 law schools that I would guess, if they were very good, that they came from, and this was one of them. And I was typically right. I'd go, where'd you go to law school? Tech. That's what I thought. I'm serious. You could tell the difference. You know?
And Jerry, I don't know if you guys keep track of this kind of stuff when you're preparing to argue before the Supreme Court, but do you know what law school the person that was on the other side of the case from you went?
No, I wasn't really concerned about where she had gone to school. I felt confident anyway, but we did know exactly the law schools that each of the justices were going to add on to, and tried to approach it that way to see if how the development of the law had gone with regard to other judges and justices that had been from those schools.
Very noble answer.
Yes, how about that? By the way, I just wanted to mention to you, it is true that my daughter is in the audience, and I've been scanning all of you, and I'm very comfortable with the idea of you going to school with her, so I want to thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? I mean, I don't want to sort of monopolize the whole thing. Just get used to raising your hand because you're going to have to do it.
Stephen, can I add something to what Judge
Sure,
Medina
sure.
said? I know when I was applying to law schools, one of the things I highly considered was the bar passage rate of the law school, and not just a particular year, but the history of the bar passage rate of the law school. I applied to 9 different schools, and some of you I've talked with individually know that I was accepted at 8 and waitlisted at 1. And so one thing I considered was the bar passage rate. And Tracy and I are, I think, most proud of our class had almost a 96% passage rate, first-time bar taker in '09. We were the top school in Texas of students who passed the bar.
Well, I'll give you another one. All right, you want a story? When I came to law school here, this is no lie, a professor that just passed away, and the faculty will know Professor Dan Benson, the unbelievable professor. The professors that we have here and had were always available to us, availability, to the point where I would go ask questions even afterwards, after classes and when I was having trouble. Long story short, during my second year, I was able to go help at a legal aid clinic, but they didn't have any money. So the law school said, we'll supply you and we'll give you credit. And that got me to a point where I had just enough hours at the time that I could take the bar exam with a class ahead of me. Hadn't had everything, but hadn't finished all my courses. But I can tell you, because I'm proof of it, this law school, after 2 years, I passed the bar. So I had a dilemma. I was a licensed attorney, but I hadn't graduated from law school. Okay? That's Texas Tech School of Law. And so you think that, I'll tell you, I didn't have an education. I had an experience. And that's what I like to call it, my law school experience. And it was tough my first year. I wondered, why did I sign up for this? Because it was tough. But then I thought, well, I know what they're doing. They're teaching me. And now looking back and alive, if you've not already accepted to come to this law school, you're making a big mistake. Hurry. Come to this law school.
He's a judge. Say it. I'm going to say no to the judge. Jake.
I wanted to add a remark, if I can. If some of you are out there thinking that you might want to do trial or appellate work, litigation, I would suggest to you that you take a look at the advocacy programs here, because their success speaks for itself. Yep. This is not home cooking. This is not anything subjective on my part. I am involved in an office in Dallas. I work for the federal defender. We have offices in Dallas, Fort Worth, Lubbock, and Amarillo. And I oversee the intern recruitment for our offices, and I do publicly attest the product that comes out of this school is head and shoulders above what's coming out of other schools, and we are constantly being approached by all the other Texas schools for positions, as well as schools on the East Coast and the West Coast. They know what they're doing here about training you to go into the courtroom and also how to write, and that's something we value very much in our offices. So if you think you're going to do trial work or appellate work, take a look at these programs, compare them to other programs. I'm very confident that that's a huge draw. I think you would be remiss if you didn't do that, in fact. And I realize some of you, well, let me back it up. When I got here, I thought I was going to do corporate aviation work. I'd been flying in the Air Force. It never occurred to me that I would be a federal appellate litigator, arguing cases and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of fell into it. If some of you are ahead of me in terms of where you are in your life journey and you think you're going to do this type of stuff, and you haven't been paying attention to the advocacy, then you are behind. The programs are stellar. The accomplishments that these teams out of Texas Tech have in national competitions, routinely bringing home first place.
Right.
On bad days, second place. Really bad days, third place. But almost
Not
always
many bad days.
Not many bad days. So take a look at it. That's not even a plug. Take a look at it.
You know, I hired, right out of law school, I hired 2 Texas Tech law students. One has been out 3 years, and he wanted to be so loyal because I'd hired him at the city attorney's office. Thought I was paying him pretty good. Until one of the other lawyers came to me and said, Brian is so loyal that he doesn't even want to tell you that everybody's after him. And I said, what do you mean? They all want him to go work for them. So I called him in the office. I said, what are you doing? I said, I like you so much that it's bittersweet, but I want you to advance. And I found out that they were offering him, a little better than what I could give him, a little over $30,000 a year more in the 52nd building of the Bank of the America in Dallas, and tickets to the Mavs game. And I said, I can't match that. And so I wrote him a letter of recommendation, and he says, well, thank you, but they're offering me the job. I said, well, okay, tear it up. He's been published 7 times already, 3 years out of law school. Thank God that Laura, who is 2 years out of law school, been published 4 times in journals, said, I want to stay in Lubbock. And I said, thank you, God. What my biggest problem is? It's not making sure that a tech lawyer has a job here. It's, I hope I can compete to keep them. And that speaks highly about the product that comes out of this law school.
Questions?